There is an old box fan sitting in a garage or a shed right now that could do something no citronella candle, bug zapper, or store-bought spray has managed to do consistently. It does not look like much. It probably has a cracked corner on the housing or a cord that has been wrapped and unwrapped so many times the insulation is starting to crack at the plug. But pulled out onto a back patio, fitted with a piece of window screen on the correct side, and set up with a shallow tray of water placed a couple of feet behind it, that fan becomes something that most people would not believe until they see the screen the following morning. The principle behind why this works is simpler than most people expect, and understanding it changes the way mosquito control looks entirely. Mosquitoes are weak flyers. That fact does not get enough attention given how much misery they cause. The average mosquito travels at somewhere between 1 and 1.5 miles per hour under its own power. A light breeze on a summer evening feels pleasant to a person sitting outside. To a mosquito trying to navigate through it, that same breeze is enough to completely disrupt its flight path. A standard box fan generates airflow considerably stronger than what a mosquito can overcome. When a mosquito drifts into the zone of suction created by the intake side of a running fan, it no longer has the flight strength to pull back out. The airflow carries it onto the screen holds it there. The mosquito exhausts itself trying to escape and dies pressed against the mesh. That is the complete mechanism. No chemistry, no electricity arcing through the air, no scent that needs to be refreshed every few hours. Moving air and a piece of screen. The weakness mosquitoes have always had, their inability to fly reliably in wind, turned into a trap. Before building anything, it is worth spending a moment on why the methods most people reach for first do not solve the problem the way they appear to. Bug zappers are satisfying in a specific sensory way. The blue light is visible from across the yard. The snapping sound is immediate and confirms that something has been killed. The problem is that the snap does not distinguish between a mosquito and a moth or a beetle or any other flying insect that happens to navigate toward ultraviolet light. Studies on bug zapper catch composition have found that mosquitoes represent a very small fraction of total insects killed, because mosquitoes navigate primarily by following carbon dioxide, body heat, and skin scent, rather than by moving toward light sources. The zapper is very effective at killing insects that are not the target, and largely ineffective at reducing the actual mosquito population in a yard. Citronella candles create a localized zone of scent that mosquitoes find unpleasant. That localized zone is small, and it requires a person to sit close enough to the candle to benefit from it. Anyone sitting more than a couple of feet from the flame is outside the effective radius. A yard is not protected by a candle on a table. The immediate vicinity of the candle is modestly protected. The rest of the space remains exactly as hospitable to mosquitoes as it was before the candle was lit. Chemical sprays applied around a patio knock down the mosquitoes present at the time of application and leave a residue that deters new arrivals for some period afterward. The duration of that protection depends on the product, the weather, and how frequently mosquitoes are being produced by breeding sites in or near the yard. If there is standing water anywhere on the property, a clogged gutter, a plant saucer that collected rain, a bucket left outside, a tarp with a depression in the center, mosquitoes are being born continuously. The spray addresses the adults already flying. The breeding continues unaffected. Within days or even hours after a rain, the population rebounds. Ultrasonic devices sold as mosquito repellents have been tested repeatedly by independent researchers and have not demonstrated consistent effectiveness in peer-reviewed studies. The premise that mosquitoes can be driven away by a specific sound frequency has not held up under controlled conditions. These devices are consistently among the least effective options available. Understanding what does not work and why makes the fan trap approach easier to appreciate. It targets the one genuine vulnerability mosquitoes have: they cannot fly in wind. Everything else about a mosquito, its ability to navigate toward a host using carbon dioxide plumes and heat signatures, its persistence, its rapid reproduction rate, is formidable. Its flight capability is not. That is the opening, and the fan trap exploits it directly. Now, for the construction, the materials required are minimal, and most of them are likely already available in any household that has been accumulating the ordinary assortment of tools and supplies that garages and sheds tend to collect over the years. The fan should be a standard box fan, the 20-inch variety that is sold at hardware stores and big box retailers for $20 to $30. Larger fans work. Smaller fans work less well because the suction zone they create is proportionally smaller. The fan does not need to be new. An older fan that has been sitting unused is perfectly suitable as long as the motor runs and the blades turn freely. The housing condition is irrelevant to the function of the trap. The screen material needs to be fine enough to hold mosquitoes against its surface when airflow presses them there, but open enough in its weave to allow the fan to draw air through without significant resistance. Standard window screen mesh is the right specification. Mosquito netting sold for camping or bed canopy use also works. What does not work is anything with a weave too tight for air to pass through easily, heavy fabric, landscape fabric, or anything that would significantly reduce the fan's ability to move air. When the screen creates too much resistance, the suction zone in front of the fan weakens and the trap loses effectiveness. To attach the screen to the fan, the options are zip ties, large binder clips, hook and loop fastener strips, or strong magnets if the fan frame is metal and will hold them. The right choice depends entirely on how often the screen will be removed for cleaning. Zip ties are secure and permanent enough for a screen that will stay in place for weeks at a time, but removing them requires cutting, which means starting over with new ties at each cleaning. Clips, hook and loop strips, and magnets allow the screen to come off and go back on in seconds, which matters because a trap that is annoying to maintain stops being used within a week. The best fastening method is whatever makes cleaning easy enough that it actually happens every day. The water tray is the bait component. Female mosquitoes are driven by the biological imperative to find standing water for egg laying. Even a shallow layer of water in a small tray or a wide bowl is sufficient to create the sensory signal they are following. The tray should be placed approximately 2 feet behind the intake side of the fan, close enough to sit within the suction zone the fan creates, but not so close that it is touching the fan housing. Mosquitoes flying toward the water encounter the suction zone before they can reach the tray and get pulled onto the screen. The single most important construction detail, and the one that determines whether the trap works or produces no results at all, is which side of the fan the screen is attached to. A box fan has 2 distinct sides. One side draws air in, the other side pushes air out. These are not interchangeable in this application. The screen must be attached to the intake side, the side that pulls air toward the fan. Attaching the screen to the output side, the side that blows air away from the fan, means that any mosquito near that screen gets pushed away from it rather than held against it. The trap fails completely when the screen is on the wrong side, and it fails silently. Because the fan still runs, the screen is still there, and everything looks correct from a distance. To identify the intake side with certainty before attaching anything, turn the fan on at low speed and hold a thin piece of paper or a lightweight tissue near each side of the housing. The side that pulls the paper toward it is the intake side. The side that blows the paper away is the output side. The screen goes on the intake side. This step is worth taking every time, even if the fan has been used before and the intake side seems obvious. Confirming it takes 10 seconds and eliminates the most common reason the trap produces no results. Once the screen is secured to the intake side, cut it slightly larger than the fan face, leaving about 2 inches of extra material on each edge. Pull it taut across the face of the fan and secure the extra material around the outer edge of the housing. A sagging screen that bows inward toward the blades reduces the effective collection surface and allows gaps at the corners where mosquitoes can escape the suction zone without contacting the mesh. Tight and flat, with no gaps at the edges, is the target. Placement of the assembled trap within the yard determines how many mosquitoes it intercepts. Mosquitoes rest in shaded, low airflow areas during daylight hours and become active around sunset as temperatures drop, and their targets, the people sitting on the patio, emerge. They travel from resting areas toward heat and carbon dioxide sources along predictable paths, through shaded corners, along fence lines, through low-growing vegetation under deck edges, through the transition zone between yard and any adjacent overgrown or natural area. Placing the trap in the middle of an open lawn positions it away from these travel corridors. Placing it at the edge of a shaded area, near a fence, beside a hedge or in the corner where the deck meets the yard wall, positions it directly in the path mosquitoes are already traveling. The trap should not be placed immediately adjacent to the area where people are sitting. The water tray is bait. Bait draws mosquitoes toward it. Placing the bait 2 feet from where people are sitting draws mosquitoes 2 feet from where people are sitting, which is the opposite of the desired outcome. The correct placement positions the trap between the mosquitoes' resting areas and the human activity area, intercepting them before they arrive rather than attracting them into the middle of the gathering. Timing matters in a way that is easy to underestimate. Turning the fan on after mosquitoes are already swarming around the patio means the trap is competing with multiple human heat and carbon dioxide sources for the mosquitoes' attention. Turning it on approximately 30 minutes before sunset, before mosquitoes have begun their active period, means the trap is already running and the bait water is already in position when the first mosquitoes begin to move. The trap captures the early arrivals and continues running through peak activity hours. This is not a minor timing difference. Starting before the mosquito activity peak begins produces meaningfully better results than starting after it. The morning check is the clearest indicator of whether the setup is working correctly. Turn the fan off before approaching the screen. With the fan running, some of the mosquitoes pressed against the mesh are still alive, and turning it off while standing close to the screen can result in those mosquitoes escaping. With the fan off, examine the screen's surface. A correctly positioned trap in a yard with a meaningful mosquito population produces a screen surface visibly covered with captured insects after a night of operation. If the screen is largely empty, something in the setup needs adjustment before concluding that the method does not work. The most common reasons for poor results are screen attached to the output side rather than the intake side, screen material too dense for adequate airflow, water tray, placed too far from the intake zone to function as effective bait, trap positioned in an open area away from mosquito travel corridors, fan turned on too late in the evening, or a yard with very low mosquito pressure that simply does not produce many captures regardless of trap quality. Cleaning the screen is the maintenance task that determines whether the trap stays in use through the season. A screen that is difficult to remove, awkward to clean, and time-consuming to reattach will be neglected, and a neglected trap quickly becomes an unused fan leaning against the garage wall. The cleaning process should take less time than brewing a cup of coffee. Remove the screen, take it away from the house entrance to avoid depositing dead mosquitoes near doorways, shake it firmly, rinse it with a garden hose if buildup is heavy, allow it to drain briefly, and reattach. Dump and rinse the water tray. Refill with fresh water. The entire sequence, done efficiently, takes 2 to 3 minutes. If it is taking longer, the fastening system for the screen needs to be reconsidered. The bait water can be enhanced beyond plain water for situations where the mosquito pressure is very high or the plain water setup is producing modest results. A mixture of warm water, a small amount of brown sugar, and a pinch of active yeast produces a slow fermentation that generates carbon dioxide and a faint organic scent that mosquitoes associate with biological activity. A few drops of dish soap added to the tray's surface reduce the water's surface tension, making it harder for any insect that contacts the water surface to escape. These additions increase the bait's attractiveness over plain water in most conditions. They also increase the importance of correct trap placement, because stronger bait draws mosquitoes more aggressively toward the tray, and a tray positioned too close to a seating area with enhanced bait creates a more pronounced problem than the same mistake with plain water bait. The fan trap addresses the mosquitoes that are already flying in the yard on any given evening. It does not address the biological source of those mosquitoes, which is standing water. A trap that catches a full screen of mosquitoes every night for a week, while the yard still contains breeding sites, is a trap running at maximum capacity because the supply of new mosquitoes never decreases. Reducing that supply requires a brief inspection of the yard after every significant rain, looking for any container, depression, or surface that is holding water unnecessarily. Plant sources, upturned lids, buckets, low spots in tarps, clogged gutters, spaces between objects where water pools, any of these that do not need to hold water should be emptied and kept dry. Water features like rain barrels, bird baths, or garden ponds that need to remain filled can be treated with Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, sold as BTI, mosquito dunks, a naturally occurring bacteria that kills mosquito larvae without affecting fish, birds, pets, or other wildlife. The full system has 3 components that work together. The fan trap intercepts mosquitoes that are already flying and active in the yard on any given night. Correct trap placement routes that interception away from the areas where people are sitting and toward the areas where mosquitoes are traveling from. And standing water management after rain reduces the number of new mosquitoes entering the active population each week. Any one of these components in isolation produces partial results. All 3 working together produce the kind of meaningful reduction in mosquito presence that allows a yard to be used comfortably through an entire summer evening without the constant awareness of bites and the ongoing application of repellent. A few practical notes for the full season. If the fan will be left outside overnight regularly, pay attention to rain forecasts. A box fan is an electrical appliance, and leaving it in position when rain is approaching creates a hazard that a small amount of attention prevents. The extension cord powering the fan should be routed away from foot traffic paths, both to prevent tripping and to protect the cord from being walked on repeatedly. An outdoor rated timer that turns the fan on automatically before sunset and off after a set number of hours removes the need to remember to start and stop it manually and ensures consistent timing without requiring anyone to be present to switch it on. The water tray should never be left in position with water in it when the fan is off for an extended period. During operation, the suction of the fan draws mosquitoes toward the tray and onto the screen before they can land on the water surface. With the fan off, the tray sitting in the yard is an uncovered, undisturbed water source, precisely the conditions mosquitoes seek for egg laying. Any trap that is being rested for more than a few hours should have the water tray emptied and turned upside down until the next operating period. For yards with specific structural features that concentrate mosquito activity, such as a dense hedge along one boundary, a low, wet area near a downspout, or a shaded corner that holds moisture and low airflow, positioning a second trap to address that zone can significantly improve overall results. The economics are straightforward: a second old box fan, a second piece of screen, and a second shallow tray extend the coverage of the system to a second high-activity corridor without any recurring cost. The fan trap method works because it is built around what mosquitoes actually are, rather than around what it would be convenient for them to be. They are not drawn to light in meaningful numbers. They are not consistently deterred by sound. They are weak flyers that navigate toward heat, carbon dioxide, and standing water, and they cannot maintain flight in moving air. A system designed around those actual characteristics rather than around the characteristics that make for a satisfying product demonstration produces results that hold up through an entire season rather than for the first week of use. The old fan in the garage is not a backup plan. For anyone willing to take 20 minutes to set it up correctly, put it in the right place, and keep the screen clean, it is a more effective mosquito control tool than most of what is sold at the hardware store for the purpose. The screen the following morning will confirm it. Leave a comment describing where the trap gets placed, whether on a porch, beside a fence, near a hedge, or somewhere else, and what the results look like after the first few nights. Questions about screen type, water bait variations, placement decisions, or cleaning methods are all worth asking. Subscribe to stay current with practical methods like this one, approaches that start with how a problem actually works and build a solution from there.